Please do not turn it over as yet. The session is beyond the board.
The signage out front is incorrect.
Yeah, I think it's Fred and Thank you. Here. I'm here. Thank you. Oh, yes. Oh, I needed to step back and look at the whole picture. I know. Yeah. You want to do great things. You guys are coordinating. Yeah.
Oh, they got somebody out there announcing now that what's that?
Oh, yeah, yesterday.
The announcement came by the took over. Good for them. All right. We'll do a second. And then one of those notches up there in case anybody doesn't have one. Create their own. Yes. This one being first, then that sandwich one. In case anyone has an incomplete packet or is joining and there's not a packet for you, you can come create your own packet up here at the front table, or I can help assemble one.
Oh, sorry.
Well, the packet's right behind you. It's right behind you. It's the face down. Sorry.
Got it.
By packet, I mean the face down thing you're not supposed to look at. So maybe it's best if you don't think you have one. My apologies for the confusion. Yes. Yeah. We can talk the microphone like this a bit. Check 2, 2, 2, BBBS. BBBS. We good? Whoa. We're all right now? All right, okay, good. Because the room's so full, we're going to need to take turns at the podium. Don't want to. Can't be crossing it. You gotta center yourself.
Yeah. Seems a bit Vancouverish. Outdoor. We're more laid back. That's great. Those brilliant 20-somethings that have made all their money. This should take so much.
This is the board that you're now a member of. So I keep your own perspective.
How are you?
everyone. Let's get started. Apparently I thought it was 10:30.
No, that's okay. We have a full house. Hey, right.
Alright. So everybody got settled, you have your coffee, you probably would need your coffee for this. Beyond the boardroom, growing and sustaining impactful boards. I'll just start with a few introductions. Today I'm co-presenting with my husband. I am Dr. Portia Smith. I am the Executive Director for Big Brothers Big Sisters of West Central Ohio. That's my cohort, 6 people there. So I became the Executive Director officially under a year now. So officially it was July 1, so I'm not even there yet. And some of the things that I've experienced with my board, I can say probably there are others in the room who've experienced them. So I thought that maybe this is a conversation that we need to have in the open, especially with some board members present and some executive directors, CEOs present. Maybe this is a conversation that we need to actually hold together and see how we can tackle that problem, because I think I have PTSD right now from my board. But yes, so we're gonna get started. We have a lot to work through today. There might be some tears, there might be some anger, but let's get it out of our system and let's get rolling.
So I'm Dr. Aaron Graham. I'm her husband. Also deal with like a lot of corporate governance stuff in the area of the law. So I'm going to take kind of the side of this of like, okay, so you have a board who's dysfunctional or quasi-functional or unfunctional or disengaged entirely, or maybe some of it is good, some of it is disengaged. What are steps you can take either as a board member, as a CEO, as an executive director, as well as what problems can you find and spot in your bylaws of the organization that can be amended to ensure proper governance of the board, to give incentives to good board behavior and actually be able to have some action on board members who are not performing up to their duty. So that's the side that I will take in today's conversation.
So just an overview of what we're covering today, some of the objectives and takeaways. We're looking at our board responsibilities, and sometimes maybe that's not as clear as it should be. Maybe that was never mentioned to incoming board members, but we're going to take a deeper dive into those board member responsibilities. We're going to look at strengthening our board composition, because that's important for us to be able to proceed as executive director, especially someone who's pretty new to the network. It's important that I have a strong board in order to support my ability to move forward. And also enhance our recruitment and retention strategies, because that's how we get the people that we need on our boards to ensure that we are meeting our missions, we are meeting our goals, we are actually our mission, and we're getting where we need to be as an organization overall.
We want to look into what does that, we want to look at what does that actually mean though. If we say, oh, board members should help with governance, well, what does that actually look like? Okay, cool, fine. I was ready to go, that's all good. So how to tell is your board effective or dysfunctional, right? So the roles and responsibilities of a board member are usually outlined in the bylaws and defined in the constitution of the organization. But it says board members should help with fundraising. Full stop. How helpful is that or not helpful is that, right? What is the, go back. Go back to the document. There we go. Right? What is the impact of it? The impact of the engagement of a successful board? But how do we measure engagement? Say board members should go to meetings and stuff. That doesn't really help if that's what your bylaws or your constitution say. How many meetings should they attend? What should the participation be? And how can we define those specific roles in our bylaws and constitutions such that if a board member does not live up to them, they can have some remedial action placed on them to either get with the program or be shown the door. All right? And then common challenges among boards, we'll go into that as well. And we're going to touch on these specifically, but generally speaking, these are the overview of the roles and responsibilities of board members. Government, ensure good organization. And that means such things as having committees that are defined in the bylaws. It means such things as actually populating those committees, having those committees meet regularly. And for the board members or the CEOs and EDs out there, it means usually you have to meet as a committee or a subcommittee more often than the board itself meets. And if you're not doing that, you're not actually having an effective committee. So if you have finance and a fundraising committee, that doesn't mean that you just kind of talk amongst yourselves at the quarter annual board meeting, right? It means you actually have responsibilities outside of that. And how those can be delineated and defined to be executable in the bylaws is what we're going to talk about today. Same thing with financial oversight, dividing up the way that there's conflict of interest standards, not just like board members should avoid conflicts of interest. Well, yes, but what actually is that? And how do we actually detect it? And how do we go about dealing with it if it were to arise? Strategic planning, again, going over what the mission of the organization is, aligning what the ED or the CEO is doing with what the board's engagement level is, and how to have that shared vision and accomplish it. Again, policy and planning, which really goes into the development of the bylaws and the constitution of the organization, and how everybody's kind of working towards the same thing, and there are fallback mechanisms and checks and controls if somebody's not doing their proper job. I know I'm talking really fast. I mean, any slow down, somebody put their hand up. I'll just try to slow down. I just kind of do the mile a minute. All right. For the fundraising aspect as well, like what is the board, because it's a nonprofit organization, has a fundraising directive to help with fundraising, not only by personal contributions, but by going out in the community, engaging with the community, and by doing activities and helping with golf for kids' sakes, bowl for kids' sakes, whatever the organizational goals are for that. And advocacy, again, making sure that our alignment with our values of our organization are consistent with the way the board members are acting, both in their personal lives, as well as the public-facing front of the organization. Oh yeah, again, this is kind of more of the general notion of the board, right? Make sure that you have a clear, kind of this are like subsets of the previous slide. Make sure the clear vision, that there is an articulated vision for development, and that the board's actions all align with that vision. If your board members are either dragging their feet or not living up to the high aspirations of the brand of Big Brothers Big Sisters, that's a problem. Again, there shouldn't be a board meeting where people are like sitting on their hands like, motion? What's a motion? What? Can we get beer yet? That's not a proper board meeting. I'm sure it probably has happened to some of you all. And again, to have a strong reputation, again, if the board is working properly and having a good front-facing image of the organization, right, it's going to help you get donations, it's going to help build a reputation and build upon what Big Brothers Big Sisters has already built as a national brand. All right, again, some common challenges are board turnover, and either too much board turnover or not enough board turnover, and how to make sure that the level of board turnover, if you don't have aspects of it that you need, right, you need somebody who has some kind of background in accounting would be helpful. To have a productive and helpful board.
And board assessment. So many of us, as when I started, National provided a template, especially when it came to our board evaluations, just seeing how a board's going. But to me, that did not help me as a new ED in terms of assessing my board. So finding different ways to assess our boards, and I have some documents on your table. You'll find the SWOT analysis. You'll find the Baldrige Framework of Excellence. The Baldrige Framework of Excellence looks at a holistic approach to leadership. It actually assesses the strategic leadership of our board members, or each board member. I actually tried to upload a template that I created for Baldrige, but it did not go through. So if anybody would like a copy of that, I can also email that over. But Baldrige gives that, it touches on their governance, it touches on strategy, it all comes back to the mission and the vision of the organization, as you can see from the document.
Okay, but before we get to that though. But real quick actually, so now is the reveal time. Now flip over your packet in front of you and meet your new board. So if you are a board member who's sitting in the room today, these are now the bios and brief backgrounds of the board that you are now part of. If you are an ED or a CEO, this is your new board. And the activities we'll be doing for the rest of the session will deal with these particular board members and all their quirks and eccentricities as outlined in the document. And we are now the executive directors and CEOs of Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Commonwealth of Blue Sky.
So please take a few minutes just to read through the bios. This is your new board.
And then you can say, as you read, then we'll be swapping out of the board.
Make sure you get the juices flowing to understand your CEO or ED of Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Commonwealth of Blue Sky.
The one
Read through their profiles. So now we're going to get into an activity. We are going to assess our board using, as in Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Commonwealth of Blue Sky, using a SWOT analysis. We're going to identify our board's strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats that may present a hindrance to Commonwealth of the BBBS of Commonwealth of Blue Sky from achieving its mission and its vision of serving all youth.
So do it. So right. So yeah.
Work as a, yes, please work as a table. I apologize for that. Please work as a table. There are copies in the middle of your table of the SWOT analysis. So work as a table. Identify those strengths, those weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of your board.
start to read the bylaws. So now go this one. Maybe have to share something.
All right. Do we think that we have enough or a base? Oh, more time? Is there more time? Okay.
That's more time. So,
We'll give you more time. I don't want everybody to be breaking into reading the bylaws and trying to analyze those right now. We're just doing the bios. The bylaws is the next activity. So if you have, that's okay. But we're just doing the SWOT analysis on the bylaws themselves. So if we need more time for that, by all means, continue on.
Remember, some of us probably have experienced some of these board members or are experiencing
people
them
like this.
or seen people like them, heard stories about people like them.
That's what I'm saying. Take as much time as you want.
All right, 5 more minutes, guys. I know it's a little funny. Fortunately, it could be true. But 5 more minutes as we go through, and then we'll regroup.
I joined the EC for a bunch of years, and my predecessor had gotten permission to do some governance work. They can't on it until I started, but like the first things I was trying to do and update the bylaws. I'm like, it's actually was such a great exercise, but I it's like the board's been 23 years and the retirees, so they just jump like we put in term limits, but even that is like, well, let's do classes, and the classes will start in 2 years, and I'm like, okay, so they're there, but nobody's leaving yet. I had one guy leave, thank God, but I'm like, I could use, gotta till the soil a bit, so,
I agree.
yeah.
So it's a common problem.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why this is such a fun time.
We'll get back together at 10:41.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's okay. That's what I was thinking. They wanted to interrupt you after you started. Because that way, or one of you can stay. Yeah, one can stay, the other one can stay. That's perfect. Let's do that. Let's make this less like we're doing a dance routine.
Right.
Well, you're fine. And you can stand there, and I can stand here. I don't need to.
All right, let's get back together. If we have enough time, is everybody good? I know we can pretty much, we may need an entire day to vent on stuff like this.
Got it. Check it. All right, so now we're back together, everyone. We decided that as much as it looked like we're doing like a Russian dance routine, we decided that the second mic in here, so we don't have to keep doing that. All right, so now we're back together. Let's go around the room and have each one of the tables give us what they thought was just the one strength, one weakness. Well, actually, yeah, one of each of them. So somebody from each table. Table
Let's
one.
unpack. Let's do it.
Okay, so a strength that we listed was there was great experience amongst them. There was a lot of backgrounds and varying levels of experience. A weakness was the retirees don't have a active employer that they're working with. An opportunity is to establish a formal secretary. The president acting in both roles, and he's already obviously quite busy. And a threat that we listed was that there was no other fundraisers or committees cited besides the one. So perhaps that's an opportunity as well, but listed as a threat. They didn't have that.
True.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and Amelia.
We said a strength was some of the board members' backgrounds and connection to the school district, mental health backgrounds, and one of the board members too. Weaknesses, we said that there was a lack of diversity within the members, so there were a lot that were retired or worked for the same company. Opportunities, we said that work-based mentoring maybe, because some of them do work, lawn care or construction or something like that. And then threats, we said there was no term limits that we could see. There were some people who were really on there for quite some time.
Right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Let's go here. Well, maybe I can lock this up. So if you like the background, y'all wanna? Do y'all wanna say anything?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You look like a busy corporate executive. You're fine.
I was. I don't think I need it.
Okay, I don't think you do.
Okay, so some of the strengths that we noted, some of these people probably know all of each other with the lawnmower thing, so maybe they know how to work well together. The president seems well connected, maybe, but doesn't maybe take advantage of those connections, so that could be an opportunity also. School administrator is a good person to possibly connect with schools. Weaknesses, the treasurer does not seem like they're qualified to be doing that job. Everyone is only involved in golf. Everyone is from the same company, and just in general, they don't really seem to that involved at all. Opportunities, an opportunity is just kind of like, how do we start over? Like, who do we need here, and what can we do to get those people? Chris seems like he has individual donors, so maybe we could tap into those. The president has investment properties, so maybe there's some opportunity for donors or something else like that. This Richmond guy knows about local grants, but is not helping us get those, so that's an opportunity. Fred's conflict of interest, the president is doing the fundraising for United Way, so how are you doing fundraising for both organizations effectively? And then the treasurer not being qualified. I'm a CPA, so to me that is a threat, because if you're looking at financials and you don't understand them,
Yes.
you don't know something weird is happening.
Yes.
What happened to those zeros? Wait, what? All right, let's go over here.
Yeah, so similarly, we said, that there's some diversity of expertise in regards to mental health and service delivery, aspects of board members' expertise. We felt the board, chair was overextended a bit in all the things that he's mentioning, which gives some weakness to the board because the shared responsibilities is carrying a lot of the weight. Opportunities, we agreed with our counterparts over there. We were like, new board recruit. It's, where we were gonna go as an opportunity. And also specifically, there's someone from a mission focus, no big, no little, no parent, who's engaging on this board to really talk about the impact that their decisions are having on them as a customer. And then we also equally said a threat was the potential conflict of interest with the board chair being part of United Way, and how that could define his role and responsibility as chair of this big organization.
Lovely. Great job. Let's go back, I guess, stage right.
We talked about a handful of strengths and an alternative insight is that the potential that shared being the chair of the United Way campaign that year might have opportunities for more connectedness, not more unusual, aspect to the organization, but that didn't really outweigh what we thought were negative weaknesses. The weaknesses, many of them could be turned into opportunities, but there was definitely an inherent lack of gender diversity, age diversity. It's there's like a non-knowing monopoly on we gotta figure that out. I did like the hype of the other group said that could be good work experience, so. And then I'm a chief development officer, and we talked about a lot of folks who don't fundraise as being a threat. I also don't think that should be the primary role of a board member by any means, and that can look a lot of different ways. And some opportunities, just really sitting down and inventory, taking stock, really audit of the current board makeup and where there are some areas left.
100%. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Being that there are a lot of lawnmowers, we think being in the golf community, those greens are going to be well maintained.
The fastest greens in blue sky.
We do feel they have two very highly qualified board members in their group. Weaknesses, I mean, we're now throwing darts at our board in the same spots, right? Like we see lack of participation in diversity, as well, due to everyone basically working for us. And opportunities, we saw with Chris being a county background, perhaps a better role for him would be the treasurer, and then create governance committee. Threats, we heard basically everything, but conflicts of interest, mainly with the board president having his foot in major organizations.
All right, cool. Our last but not least table on the backstage now.
Ditto to all those things, this board's a mess.
I think we can all agree with that. All right.
There was one thing that.
Oh, yeah, no, please.
There was one thing that came up that we talked about, the fact that there were so many people from the same company creating some voting block, and that would create a problem for the board.
Good point.
It can definitely create an impediment to any change that somebody's trying to get through. Yes, sorry. Please, sir.
I'm not sure if anybody mentioned it, but I know we put down, the president is also performing secretary duties. So that was definitely a weakness at the branch.
Yeah.
And if we think about like what the role of the secretary is to notice people properly of meetings, to be the one who can, and then the president is the one who convenes the meetings. So to have the secretarial and presidential powers in the same person poses some kind of unique issues for a board, as far as if somebody's trying to get something across the line, a motion, a bylaw change, something like that, that having the secretarial and presidential powers in the same hands can be a massive impediment to that kind of specific kind of change we would want to see. So 100%, that's a great spot. I know someone else mentioned it too, so credits to them as well.
Someone mentioned there were 2 better board members, I think it was back here. Would you like to expand on that a bit?
They had, a lot of nonprofit, experience, we saw that, not value.
I think my wife was trying to get was just further say the names out loud. Like say their names.
Denny and Lucy are
Cool.
all like underutilized.
All right, cool. And that's why everybody was agreeing. Everybody saw that, right? That's what you were.
Oh,
Sorry.
I saw some hands over here.
The one thing that's just hitting me too is there's no mention at all of volunteer recruitment.
That's because it does not exist.
Blue sky is not put in there.
It's all good. All right.
I remember that was a couple of meetings over, and you, unless you're planning to move into that community or you have a presence in that community, that person is not going to be able to provide you with much community information that's going to help you at that time.
Absolutely true. All right. So you want to move to the next?
Any other pointers before we move on?
Let's do that. The bylaws. So let's.
All right,
Keep it
let's
rolling.
keep doing, yes. All right, so, yes, board recruitment is a thing. Board retention is a thing. When you have the good ones, like we mentioned back here, Lucy and, was it Denny? Being 2 of our better board members, keeping them on our board would be helpful for our board. So recruitment and retention. Recruitment and retention, and this comes from the Baldrige Framework of Excellence, also tying it in, where marketing strategy ties into that recruitment and retention. How are we marketing to our communities? How are we getting our boards? Or how are we finding our people? How are we finding board members? Would anybody like to share anything on how they've worked with recruiting board members or boards? How did you find out about your Big Brother, Big Sister organization? How was it someone who worked with
Already
you?
got a volunteer.
Oh,
Already got a
here.
volunteer.
Yeah, so our board was needing help with HR.
Okay.
I've been the HR person, which is never a good thing. And so we were needing HR representation. So we went to our local Human Resource Association, and I presented at the presentation and walked away from the coffee meeting. We're bringing somebody on to the board in several weeks.
Hey, congratulations. That's awesome.
Awesome, yes.
One of the things that we do to try and identify board members is we kind of cross-reference bigs, donors, and attendees. We have 3 major fundraising events, so we kind of cross-reference those and see who's already involved. We invite them to lunch or whatever, thank them for their participation, and then encourage them to join a committee. Because for us, you can't be on the board if you haven't already been on a committee, because we want to make sure that you show up and you're engaged.
Right.
So I think that's a good point too, is like using the advisory committees, or if you have like different counties who service there, like advisory boards, right, which don't have any voting power in the actual board, by using that as a resource, and if they're actually agree to be on that after you do your correlation with data analytics and say, okay, this is an engaged individual, right, then we can put them on that committee and they perform well there, then we can, that's a very great way to kind of weed from the chaff, you know.
You're vetting them a bit.
Yes. So, your hand first and then over here, so.
Yeah, so our board treasurer is at the end of her term limits at the end of 2025. So what she's doing is actually she's recruiting a new board treasurer, either from her workplace or from neighboring, another CPA somewhere she knows. So
Beautiful,
that's
beautiful.
really helpful.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very helpful.
Okay.
All of this feels very formal to me because our board is kind of like, okay, we need to ask someone, who do we need? Anybody know anybody? Do you want to reach out to this person? And it's kind of just like a word of mouth thing. But hearing some of these other strategies, I like
Right, but you're like, we need somebody by Tuesday. Go ahead, sir, and then Matt.
So we have, so in our region, we have a very, very active chamber of commerce and a very active, like, all the businesses, very active, they have like events in there.
That's awesome.
So most of those are like celebratory recognition types of events. And so we go to those events to meet people that are being recognized and speak to them about the potential of serving on the board, or if they have anything to do with brothers and sisters, and based on that, kind of cultivate that relationship. So we have a lot of people that are like based on, we just have a lot of people that we can.
That's awesome.
It's really identifying who we want.
That's what the level of engagement. All right, the gentleman here, and then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in the Michigan region, what we do is we develop a matrix of what the community looks like. And then from that matrix, male, female, this, and then we look at filling each of those slots with the right people. We also utilize some of what the others have said also, and it has worked us well. In fact, right now, we're at 19 for our board.
Wow.
And I, being the chair of the board, make sure that those slots are filled. And as I mentioned to the table over here, for example, we have some that handle mental health, we have federal judges, we have attorneys, we have this one, we have that one. So we have what the community actually looks like.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's awesome. Good job.
We do a little bit of everything that I was talking about, but I don't think anyone's mentioned corporate partners. So we work closely with corporate partners that support us at a high level and talk about leaders within their space that might be looking to knowledge. Yeah.
Right, and then you can, if that were to happen too, you get engagement from the employees of the corporation too. They can put like internal emails out and kind of help with both internal fundraising as well as like brand recognition and morale, and that would lead to a volunteer pipeline too. So that's a very great point. Thank you.
Yeah, and even within our marketing strategy, ensuring that when we recruit, that our board members understand our mission. Because if they're just there for, like Blue Sky for golf, and they're just golf buddies just looking to play golf, and they're really not in tune with our mission, we could have a mess on our hand, like Blue Sky, pretty much.
So, all right, so at this point in time, due to the lovely participation, we're going to give her going over the Baldrige framework a little bit of a miss, but we have it, it's an uploaded document, but if you reach out to it didn't upload right, but we'll give you, it's a whole like 3-page spreadsheet so you can do like a more in-depth evaluation of any board member or position you have at your organization, and that's provided, of course, free of charge once the upload works.
Yes, yes, it's on the conference app. It's not pulling on my phone, maybe it'll work somewhere else.
But if not, leave your email or reach out to us and we'll give you the whole spiel, 100%. And the same thing for any other materials here. Okay, so now we're going to read the bylaws. And if you already started reading the bylaws, probably good in the interest of time. So now we're going to read over the bylaws. And, well, yeah, we got 30 minutes left. So we're going to read over the bylaws.
Somebody said they didn't have bylaws?
Oh, who doesn't have bylaws? Here's bylaw, wait. You're right, here you are. And the bylaws start, we're going to start on, it's a 2-page thing, or it's a front and back. The front of it, we're starting with board members, and then the back goes into executive director decisions. So these are the actual hypothetical bylaws for the Commonwealth of Blue Sky BBBS organization, and these are the bylaws that the board of directors you just met are presently operating under. So as you're going through, maybe thinking about some problems that might stand out for making a change in the board or having some issues that would go along with that.
Anybody else need bylaws?
You're good. I just want to make sure that that was productive, right? You could really do that. I'll go for the yeah.
Yeah.
How they reduce them? A member of the board by majority vote whenever it comes
An officer or
I'm on leadership. All right.
President, Vice President. Chair, vice chair, past chair, treasurer, secretary, first secretary. And we need-
But after that,
Oh, yeah, right, especially.
I only hardly left
Right, yeah, I'm like.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, we'll wrap up at 11:07, so you have a few minutes remaining just to go through and then go through.
And that's okay, because at 11:07, we'll start doing the scenarios, which is the last page of the handout, which are based on the bylaws of the board members. So don't work ahead, but know that you'll have a chance to refer to those as we do the scenarios together as a group, okay?
You'll also refer back to your SWOT analysis.
All right, folks, all right, let's bring it back together now. All right, so now that we know the bylaws that our lovely board of directors is operating under, let's talk briefly about a couple scenarios that would play out in this board. And so, again, we'll give you a couple minutes to do each scenario, but we'll kind of do them one at a time. So again, as your relevant position, if you are a board member, think of this as being you're a member of this dysfunctional board. If you're a CEO or an ED or a member of recruitment or whatever your position is, think about like how you would try to approach to solve the problems given in each scenario, given your own role, and then discuss amongst yourselves, talk amongst yourselves about that. So scenario one is, as you can tell from the bylaws, the board has never established any of the committees outlined in the bylaws. No chairs have been appointed, no members have been assigned, no committee meetings have been held, and no identification of who is on any given committee has ever been done, except for our golf committees, which meet at, at a place and drink the beers and do golf stuff. So how, if we were trying to solve for scenario one, what could be something that could be done to the bylaws to make those things happen? Or what would you do as your position as an ED or as a board member to try to make a productive change to work towards committee establishment, etc. So we'll give you a couple minutes to talk about that, and then we'll come back and get answers. If that's confusing, put your paw in the air and I can clarify it. Are we good? We can also think about it this way as well, is given the bylaws we have, if there's not enough there, what can we do to like fix that problem? And how do we go about that as a board or as a director, executive director, if that makes sense? Alright, so in the interest of time, just a couple more to go through. I know there's a lot of discussions going on too, so how about we do this? How about we start going into scenario 2 as well, because they're kind of related, and we can keep the discussion going for a few more minutes, okay? So, for everybody in the back, scenario 2 is that the board only has 2 committees, the executive committee, which meets in closed session when trouble arises, or once a year, whichever is fewer, and that ad hoc golf committee we're talking about, which consists of the 3 co-workers in the Tractor Factory. So again, similar to the first one, how would you also solve for this one, okay? So keep on noodling. All right, everybody. Hey, so let's come back and try to get some thoughts. So we want to make sure we have like some time at the end for questions. Otherwise, we let this go for forever. So let's try to come back and get some answers from each table real quick on what was the discussion about this and what was productive, what you thought could happen, and then we'll move to questions after that. And then if you want us to stay after the time frame, we can do the bonus question if you all want. So we'll go from there. Okay. So first table, any thoughts? If you just want to.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It won't have to go in order. Which table has thoughts? Any people have thoughts, ideas, notions? About either one, scenario 1 or 2, or just general solutions. Or we can just pull our hair out together as a community.
Back here.
Oh, we do? I'm sorry, back there. Please, please.
So we think that you need to start with education. The board needs to be educated on what the responsibilities are that are within their bylaws. And in order for them, once you educate them, they need to buy into those bylaws because they're not going to follow them. You know, we've done it this way for 20 years, doesn't always work. If they're not willing to follow them, then at that point is when you need to start reaching people in and out and getting people on who are going to be in compliance with these bylaws. Or perhaps your bylaws can be a real.
100%. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, what is just something similar. So the first thing to do is bylaws, assess what are the committees that are there, make sense for where we are with the strategic plan. And so starting with the strategic plan and looking and seeing, okay, do these committees make sense? If they do, clearly define what the role of that committee is, and then appointing or asking for someone to step up to the chair of that committee.
Perfect. Thank you. Another table has it? No, please.
Sometimes it's required education who within your own organization. So as the executive director, I would probably figure out who my strongest allies on the board were and who were the most frustrated with how currently it was going, and then come up with my own structure of how I thought it would work, then work with those people, because those are going to be the people. There's always a little bit of division between the board and the staff.
Right.
You need to have a strong relationship, and this really feels like it's a little adversarial. So you can find out who your allies are and get them to help buy into the new structure and get people on board with what it needs to look like, and kind of start trying to get those people onto your executive committee and try to move those people into stronger positions of power on the board and start to turn the tide.
Yeah, 100%. Anybody else have anything?
We discussed that they're not meeting often enough, or that it dissolves until the next year, and that for an impactful and engaged board, there needs to be consistency, and even if they're figuring it out as they go, figuring it out more often.
Right.
So we get to the end.
Yeah.
So we get to end of the road a little bit quicker. Was a big takeaway of that one.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. So really quickly, the last thing I swear before we open for questions is some general legal oversight principles that might be relevant and maybe something you can leverage to actually help with your board. But keep in mind, if you are a board member, there are some general principles. For example, in the bylaws for the Commonwealth of Blue Sky, right? There's a kind of a mouth service given to compliance with federal regulations. They say that they comply with this board will comply with all federal and state regulations. Full stop. Okay, but what those are, and the idea that you have a duty of candor, a duty of trust, and a fiduciary duty to the organization, every board member, and if you violate that, you could be liable, depending upon how your insurance policy works for your organization. You could be individually or separately liable, if you're embezzling money or doing a bad job and wasting money, right? So if you want to put the fear of God in some board members, hey, look, you actually have a duty to this organization. So sitting around and not doing stuff could be a problem for you and for our organization. We don't want to lose our license, we don't want to lose our affiliation with nationals, we want to keep the brand going well. So that's something that the bylaws should include, and they should include in stronger language than we comply with all the stuff. So I feel there's actually a thing called a fiduciary duty, a duty of candor, a duty of trust to the organization, and kind of the bylaws would detail those things out, right? That would give a better understanding, as somebody's saying, a better education to the board members, what's expected of them, and what could be at stake both for themselves and for the organization, right? Again, like these, the bylaws that you all looked at, obviously have like inadequate monitoring of board performance. Like, well, the board members are gonna say, like, I did a great job this year, and that's gonna be like, and then the other board members are like, oh, they did a great job. And if the board attendance policy is 25% of meetings or less, they may be able to kick you off the board. That's just not gonna cut the mustard. Like, if you attend less than a quarter of the meetings, they can vote to maybe kick you off the board. No, if you can attend less than 50% of the meetings, you just automatically show yourself the door.
Yeah.
Especially in our day where we can have Zoom or digital meetings, right? There's no excuse for not being there 50% of the time, in my humble opinion. So things like that, when the bylaws can help with that with the corporate governance, as well as, and I'm not sure you really get to the back of the executive director portion of the bylaws, but if you looked at that, the lack of the financial oversight for transactions, in Blue Sky, the executive director has like unlimited cost and power as far as financials go. They can more or less run the whole show themselves. And that leads to the bonus question scenario, which is a completely non-realistic hypothetical, it never actually happened in real world at all, that the executive director can do some shenanigans because they have that kind of power. So limiting that and forwarding out the proper oversight, again, will eliminate conflict of interest and also help with transparency and help with the ability of the board to function smoothly without people trying to hide some of the stuff from the other board members, et cetera, et cetera. So at that point in time, we'll open for questions. Thank you all for your time. Yes, ma'am.
So we're talking about increasing accountability, especially at Blue Sky where that hasn't been kind of the culture.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have some suggestions about how we get the board on board with increasing their accountability and changing the bylaw?
That's actually, that's the part of the issue there, right? So every board should have a corporate governance committee that should be, the executive director or CEO should be part of, and they should be the part, and basically it's part of the foundational charter for any organization. When you incorporate any state, it has to have a governance committee of some kind. In Blue Sky, they were like, didn't do that, even though they should have it. So somebody should be like, hey, if we're gonna be in compliance with state and federal law, we need to have the specific committee. And then once that committee is in place, or even absent of that, any board member can propose, any voting member of the board in the ED included can propose changes to bylaws if they're given in writing 10 days prior to the board meeting. And so basically trying to get some traction in there to be like, if we're amending the bylaws to say if a board member doesn't do this, this, and this, these are going to be the consequences for it. And the problem is like the board member's like, well, we haven't done anything for 30 years. We don't want to vote for that. That's where the kind of hiccup comes. But then I think the biggest carrot and stick you can be is like, but we're not in compliance with federal law then. And if we're not doing that, we risk losing our chapter affiliation. We risk losing our 501c3 status. And so that, I mean, that's kind of the struggle that people are in, is if you have a board who doesn't want to do stuff and doesn't want to be accountable and even doesn't want to amend the bylaws, because then, by God, they might be held accountable, then you really kind of have to go at them with like, we're not in compliance with laws. And maybe it would be so helpful. I mean, I'm sure there was an attorney on a board of any of these boards, right, that has these problems. The attorney would be like, oh, God, can't do this. Right, so maybe, I mean, I'm not saying seek outside legal counsel, but somebody who knows something about the law, or even make a presentation about, here's what federal compliance looks like, here's what state compliance looks like, we're not in it. We risk losing everything if we pull our status or if national revokes to the chapter. I mean, so that, again, that's really the sticking point of the whole thing, and those are some strategies that we have tried to employ and other people who thought we have.
I recommend getting a third-party facilitator in a board's retreat, so that it's not the staff person that's saying, hey, idiots, this is wrong, doing that. But the board retreat can be a powerful way to group everybody in the same room, third-party person, guides them through, hey, this group should be, here's what the gaps are. And you can usually find someone that'll donate that time, or it's relatively expensive, but I think it's required, especially if this is maybe a worst case scenario situation. But, you know, there's that, I think, would be an accountability tool you could use, because you don't want to also fall in the executive director either, because those are your bosses technically, and it's hard to leave that flow.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. Man, with that.
I have two suggestions to piggyback what you said, but something that you said about seeking outside counsel.
Mm-hmm.
As an attorney, I would recommend that you seek outside counsel.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Because attorneys are required in most states to do pro bono time,
Mm-hmm.
and the time that they dedicate to our agencies counts towards their pro bono time. So they'll give it to you for free.
100%.
All you have to do is ask. And we keep attorneys all across our footprint.
Right.
someone mentioned that they were having challenges between staff and the board.
Yeah.
And we have 2 members of staff on every committee. So for like our development committee, we have the person in charge of marketing and the person in charge of development from the agency on that committee. One, because they educate us, and it's an equal exchange as opposed to a one-sided. The board says you gotta do this, and they don't have a clue what you're doing.
Right, well, then the executive director or the CEO is standing in the breach between the employees and the board, right? And it's just 100%.
So that's, and we do the same thing with our finance committee. We don't have a staff member on governance for obvious reasons.
Right.
But, you know, just a suggestion is to incorporate the staff into the committees.
No, absolutely. And I think in blue sky, this scenario got to be with any attorney that was approached, like, you want to be a board member, you want to pro bono, they're like, oh, hell no. So, but no, absolutely. Having, again, like, working for change, right? Having an attorney to have eyes on it, right? And as well as having an attorney who's doing pro bono work for it, right? And just as, like, just as part of the community, like, I know attorneys want to get their name out there in the community, and having a reputation, be part of a good reputable organization like Big Brothers Big Sisters, like, what else people, Mason and Hancock Law Firm supports Big Brothers Big Sisters. I mean, it's a great thing. So, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Any other questions or comments or anything? All right, well, we're trying to get our contact info up here, but it's not. So we'll be around for the rest of the conference the entire time. If there's any questions or you have any specific things or want to go, we have a bunch of like corporate governance law and stuff I can talk about for years. If anyone wants to ask any questions or talk about that, or just have a cup of coffee, go over anything, hit us up. My wife has business cards for her with a QR code. You can scan it, you can pick one up. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
To the boards that are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, thank you for wanting to be functional.
Yes.
That, because the first step to recovery is when you have a problem. You bet. Here. Why don't you just give me
Been there for a number of years, but yeah, I've done
I've been there.
Well, I would love to connect.
You guys can sleep knowing that you're not alone. I've been yes, this is all. You make her feel good.
I know, right? I'll feel what's wrong. The only thing she said was like,
yeah, she's daddy's girl. She's gonna stop
you, sir. I
daddy.
appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for coming. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And you know that I'm so right about it. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
The reason that we do this right now,
Get the slide. Okay, because you're gonna put contact go up. And like,
Yeah, I was trying.
we don't try to.
oh, son of a gun.